Hello, my name is Nicole Lundstrom, and I'm going to be speaking to you today about rhetorical analysis. Rhetorical analysis is something that we use every day without even realizing it. We use rhetorical analysis at work when we're analyzing business reports or business material. We use it when analyzing commercials or advertisements, and also on Facebook. In addition to all of those areas that we use rhetorical analysis, one of the most important areas, and the area that I'd like to focus on today, is writing a rhetorical analysis as an essay or report for school. It's a very effective way of writing a paper that you need to take a stance on because there's certain elements that contribute to and support whatever stance you choose to take. The two different styles of writing a rhetorical analysis that are found in Writing Today by Richard Johnson Sheenan and Charles Payne are: the first one, you start with an introduction, after which you explain the rhetorical concepts, and then you follow up in your body of your paper the use of logos, ethos, and pathos. You're going to want to use those after you explain the history and the content of the subject that you're writing your paper on, and then follow up with a conclusion. I'll talk a little bit more about logos, ethos, and pathos in a minute and how that applies specifically to rhetorical analysis. The second way you can organize your paper for school is by starting with an introduction. Secondly, you'll use the historical context and the summary of the text, and then you'll follow up with an explanation of the three rhetorical concepts, followed by an analysis of the text, and then a conclusion. The use of logos, ethos, and pathos is especially important when writing a rhetorical analysis. The use of logos is using reasoning to put your point across. It's reasonable, the X, Y, Z. Ethos, the credibility. Credibility can oftentimes be one of the most important uses of the concepts, because you want to be credible. You want your audience to see you as knowing what you're talking about, and that your subject has credibility to it. And then following up with pathos. Pathos is the use of emotion. There is not specifically an order that you need to use logos, ethos, and pathos in, unless you're following a strict outline, such as the first introduction, or the first style of writing your paper that I presented you, where you start with an introduction, the explanation of the concepts, the historical context, and then logos, ethos, and pathos. A lot of times when writing a paper, it's very beneficial to follow a specific outline of how you want your paper to be laid out. And I've found that in the past, this is especially helpful in doing a rhetorical analysis. Highlighting the uses of credibility, highlighting the uses that you want to use, can be very important when you're speaking of logos, ethos, and pathos. You want to make sure that you're appealing to the masses, and that you know who your audience is prior to writing a rhetorical analysis and using these. The reason I say that is because you're going to organize your paper, or you're going to write your paper, according to your audience and who you're trying to appeal to. The use of logos, ethos, and pathos would not be the same if you're writing a business report for your colleagues as it would be if you are writing a paper aimed at UAA students. You want to make sure that whichever form and style that you use, that you do know your audience first. Recently, I actually did a rhetorical analysis on McDonald's, and I really liked using the rhetorical analysis style, and the reason for that is I used an advertisement that was actually aimed at Swedish audiences, not at the United States, and it started out with a very bold statement, just in writing at the top, and then at the bottom it had very fine writing which explained the statement. It was an advertisement that specifically was kind of shocking for McDonald's. It's not what you would aim to see from them, but as you read on, you kind of understood, and it was very controversial. And the use of pathos specifically was pretty brilliant. But they had to also use their ethos, saying that they're a credible company, and if they weren't a credible company, they wouldn't have been able to make such a bold statement that made people stop and look at what it was that they were doing. On Facebook, Fife, when Fife was writing about the uses of rhetorical analysis on Facebook, she goes on to indicate that while most people posted on Facebook, their replies were related to logos and pathos, it also can have an impact on an individual's ethos. You know, what type of information is typed in replies or on the appeals we put on Facebook can have a direct impact on an individual's emotion. So again, I bring up the point of the rhetorical analysis I did for McDonald's as well as Facebook, because it shows you that rhetorical analysis is something that can really be used in many different situations, whether it's business or school, or just analyzing something you may not even be realizing you're doing, such as when you're posting, replies and appeals on Facebook. I hope that next time you're thinking about doing a paper, you'll look into rhetorical analysis, especially if it's a paper where you need to take a stance on something. Using logos, ethos, and pathos is especially important, because you're able to really focus on your stance and then apply those to support your stance on your paper. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate you taking into consideration using rhetorical analysis. Thank you.